male, female, it doesn't matter. Educated, uneducated, high, low, it doesn't matter. Everybody is universal. It's a universal fact that everybody is seeking fearlessness, that everybody is seeking infinite happiness. This is this is a universal fact. And some people may argue with me, say, no, this is too much, the generalization. I don't seek happiness, right? I seek only the fulfillment. Is fine. And you change the word from happiness to fulfillment, that's fine. Yeah. So you are either looking for you are looking for fearlessness, and you are looking for fulfillment, infinite fulfillment, or infinite happiness, or infinite joy, or say infinite ease. This is what we are seeking. Okay, how many agree with me? Raise hands. Very good. Okay, if you agree with this, then the next question is, no matter how much you squeeze a handful of sand, oil will not come out. For you say whereas if you squeeze a handful of sunflower seeds, oil will come out, which means that there should be some potential inside for that, for the oil to come out. Likewise, although we seek fearlessness, we seek infinite happiness, do we have the seed of the fearlessness, and do we have the seed of the infinite happiness? This question. If you don't have these two, no matter how much effort that you put in, your effort will all go in vain. So the answer is yes. Each one of us, it doesn't matter whether you are believer or not believer, whether you're Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim, Jain, Christian, the Jew, it doesn't matter. Sikh, Baha'i, or let's see that what blocks our mind from feeling being unaffected. In other words, what makes our mind to feel affected? What's that factor? That factor, luckily, that factor is not intrinsic with the mind. It is adventitious. That factor is adventitious. Okay, so that factor we called that as afflictive obscurations, which blocks us from achieving fearlessness. That is known as the afflictive obscurations. And the afflictive obscurations, on the surface, it was the contaminant karmas, and below that, afflictions, gross afflictions, and below that, inappropriate attention, and below that, self-grasping ignorance. So the ground for all the afflictive the obscurations is the self-grasping ignorance. And if you want these factors to be removed so that your mind will not be affected by any other factors, what should you do? You should remove the ground. For example, if on an iceberg, if you build a house, they say many buildings, many stories, and from these stories you see that the terrorists are attacking you. The best thing is melt the iceberg on which all these stories of the building were stacked. They will crumble on their own. Likewise, the contaminant karmas, afflictions, inappropriate attention, all these things will invariably crumble down when you remove the self-grasping ignorance, which is the foundation, the ground for all these afflictive obscurations. Okay, so from this what we learn is that, okay, if I really want to become fearless, I have to, get rid of this self-grasping ignorance. And how to get rid of this self-grasping ignorance? It is by cultivating the counterforce, not by just by prayers. By introduce the counterforce. What is the counterforce? The wisdom of emptiness. Okay. What is wisdom? The wisdom is the discerning mind, whose apprehension of the object tallies with the reality. What is the reality? What's the reality? This question. So this, the many philosophers in the past, different traditions, they try to explore. So exploring what is reality, what this reality is constituted of, this culminated in the different tenet systems. Okay, one. Number two is the mind. What obstructs our mind from freely flowing towards all the atoms of the universe? This question. So what we call is that, I say, the mind flowing freely to all atoms of the universe. This is known as the infinite happiness, infinite ease. What blocks us from this infinite ease or infinite happiness is the cognitive obscurations, which we learned earlier. What is cognitive obscuration? What we said is that we give the example of the smell of garlic. You remove the garlic completely from the container, wash it so well, no trace of garlic is left there. You smell it, it still smells garlic. So, removing all the afflictive obscurations, still there's a subtle smell left there. Okay. So, this subtle smell, after removing the afflictive obscurations completely, that smell is the metaphor for the cognitive obscurations. And some of you may be wondering, what exactly is that? This is a metaphor. What exactly is this cognitive obscuration? This is your question. Okay. So for this, I'm not sure if from the beginning, I asked people to remind me. Did I ask people to remind me? You forgot that even? Okay. If you've forgotten it, fine. So now, is there anybody who likes to remind me after the emptiness teaching? Raise hands. Is there anybody who likes to volunteer to remind me? Okay, Bharatji. Who else? There should be like 3 or 4 people. Huh? Chandi? Oh, Charlie? Yes. Charlie, 2, and then put 2, 3. Okay, then the Sony, 4. Anyone else? Janavi, 5. Sonamla, 6. Okay, we have 6 now. Okay, so now there are 6. After teaching on emptiness, if I don't deal with this issue, I'm not responsible. Okay, there is also Anu, 7 there. Okay, so you have to remind me, what exactly is cognitive obscurations beyond more than the mere metaphor? Metaphor is fine. How many of you are happy with the metaphor? Raise hands. How many are happy with the metaphor? Oh, that makes sense. But what exactly is that? Okay, good. So this is what we're going to they learn towards the end of the teaching on emptiness. Okay. And at the moment we're doing the tenet system. Now, say the cognitive obscuration, it obstructs our mind from freely flowing towards all atoms of the universe. Okay, when we say that our mind stops us from our mind being blocked from flowing freely towards every atom of the universe, which is more difficult for our mind to flow towards the flower, towards the houses, or towards the difficult people? Which is more difficult? Difficult people is more difficult, right? Okay, so there are 2. So towards the sentient beings, sentient, towards the beings, sentient beings, and towards all, including sentient beings. 2. Towards sentient beings, say, if you practice how to let your mind flow towards sentient beings, this is how you exercise to let the mind flow towards all atoms of the universe, every phenomena of the universe. For that, what obstructs us from flowing, that a mind to flow freely to all beings, is our self-centered attitude. How many agree with me, in a sense? Very good. Now, from this, what we learned is that what is the remedy to overcome these? So the first one, for the afflictive obscurations, we have to remedy the ultimate ignorance. For that, we have to introduce wisdom. And this wisdom must be driven by the effective mind, which is renunciation. I must be freed from samsara. I must be freed from the fears of life. So the aspiration is known as renunciation. I must be free from all fears of life. In other words, I must be free from samsara. These two are synonymous. Free from samsara, free from all fears of life. These two are synonymous. That is known as the renunciation. So this renunciation must be the driving force, and this driving force must move this wisdom to eradicate the ignorance, self-grasping ignorance. Now for the cognitive obscuration, what will help us to remove this cognitive obscuration? Again, it's the same wisdom, but the driving force must be very powerful. Driving force must be very powerful. Okay. So it is like, let's say that there are two children, and both are equally smart. There's no difference in their smartness, intelligence. Both are doing so good in, let's say, the physics. And they complete the high school, then they join the college or the university. And in India, it's 3 years, and in some places, it's 4 years, bachelor's. And after completing the bachelor's, BSc, bachelor's in the science with the major in physics. The child A or the person A, okay, now I'm so tired. Now if you push the person A from doing masters and then PhD, the person feels so tired, but the person B is so eager to do it. There's a tremendous zeal, enthusiasm there. If somebody asks you that after several years, maybe after 7 years, after 10 years, okay, of the two persons you met before who are doing physics, of the two, one completed PhD. And who do you think is the one who completed PhD? The A who is not enthusiastic, B who's very enthusiastic, so passionate with physics, most likely who do you think is going to be the one who completed the PhD in physics? Okay, B, no doubt. Why B? Both have the same talent, both have the intelligence, degree of intelligence. Why B? Because intelligence is like the implement to make you reach there. But then there must be the driving force. There's a passion. The driving force must be very intense to complete just a bachelor's in physics. That enthusiasm may not be as intense as the enthusiasm required for somebody to do the PhD in physics. How many agree with me, Resans? It's a very simple thing. I'm sure you will all agree with me. Yeah. Okay. So what is my enthusiasm? To just remove the afflictive obscurations versus to remove all the obscurations, including cognitive. So there, that driving force must be much more intense. Much more intense. Okay. So for the second part, removing the cognitive obscuration, the driving force should be renunciation plus bodhicitta. Renunciation plus bodhicitta. Renunciation must be there plus bodhicitta. If bodhicitta is missing, then this wisdom cannot be used to cut the cognitive obscurations. Okay. So from this, what we discover, what we learn from this is that for my benefit while seeking the fearlessness and infinite happiness, wisdom plays a very important role, renunciation plays a very important role, and the bodhicitta plays a very important role. And of course, last time we also mentioned about this wisdom must not be flickering, it must be very steady. The steadiness will be given by the samadhi, meditative concentration. So meditative concentration is very important. So this is what you know. The four things are so important. Four things are so important. Okay, now from this samadhi part, a samadhi single point of meditation, it is like, say, if you meet teachers from the different traditions, say in the olden times in India, say the various traditions like Samkhya, Vedanta, Mimamsaka, Vaisheshik, the Nyaya, then the Jainism, Buddhism, the samadhi is much more the same. If you meet any person, of the techniques may differ a little bit, but then the goal is much more the same. To get the stability of the mind is much more the same. And then in terms of the renunciation, one renounce from the miseries. The difference may lie in the subtlety, but I'll say the same renouncing. And the bodhicitta part, this is something, I would say, the something in a way like unique of the Mahayana teachings, bodhicitta. Okay, so the and renunciation bodhicitta, of course, we need a vast learning, but the issue is about the cognitive understanding of what constitutes the reality. Without understanding this, you cannot have the wisdom. Without having the wisdom, you cannot have the implement to cut the afflictive obscurations and the cognitive obscurations. So, searching for the wisdom, that plays a very important role. Inquiry into the ultimate reality. Inquiry into what constitutes the ultimate reality, ontological reality. It plays a very crucial, I'll say, the point here. So this is what the various traditions they explore. They were exploring, because most of the traditions from this, the tenet systems. So all these traditions, they are talking about what's the reality. And most of the traditions, they say that we are not seeing the reality. What we are seeing is contrary to what the reality is. So what's the reality? This question. So most traditions, they give the example of a dream. In dream, you dream of something, and you, let's say, dream ghost. You see the dream ghost as real when you are in the dream. But the dream goes to be a real dream ghost. This is not a reality. This is just the mental fabrication. It's not a reality. There's nothing there objectively real as a dream ghost. It was all coming from your mind, not objectively, but subjectively. It comes. But in the dream, you see it as objectively real. So that mind, while the dream ghost is subjectively real, but you see that it's objectively real, that is ignorance. That is ignorance. So what you see does not tally with the reality. What you see is the dream goes to be real. And the reality is that the dream ghost is empty of being real. Okay, with this simple example, how many of you understood it? Raise your hands. Very good. Okay, many of the traditions, they give the example of the dream, how the dream is deceptive, and how our perceptions are deceptive, and what to see the reality. To see the reality, we have to cut through the appearances that we have to cut through. Okay, so with this in mind, what we are seeing is one thing, and there is a deeper reality there. So now, in simple terms, I say we are seeing one thing, and the reality is something different. So what we are seeing in a loose sense, it is known as conventional truth. A reality which is behind what we are seeing is known as ultimate truth in a loose sense. Okay, let me repeat it. So what we said is that, like a dream, in dream we see something as objectively real, and then behind that there's the reality there. reality which we are not seeing. What is that reality? The dream to be empty of being objectively real. This is reality. This is not what we are seeing. Okay, how many agree with me? Raise hands. Good. Good. Now, just as in the dream, we see one thing, and the reality exists in another way. Likewise, in our waking state, in a waking life, again, we see one thing, and the reality is there's another reality there. So what we see is known as conventional truth, and the reality which is hiding behind that, which is not visible to us, that is known as ultimate truth. Okay, which is not visible to us doesn't mean that it remains invisible all the time. No. As long as we don't explore, it will remain hidden. The moment we explore correctly, properly, we come to discover what that reality is. Okay, so two truths. And interestingly, most of the traditions, all the four things that, how many of you heard this? I said two versions. One is where what we see, as the David said, what we see through our ordinary perceptions. This is the conventional truth. And what is hidden behind that, which is not visible now, only when we explore, we will start to see that. So that is the ultimate truth. This is what I said. Number one version. How many of you understood this? Raise hands. Good. Okay, number two, what I said is, as the David Farrow said, that a truth which is not stable, not reliable, that is conventional truth. A truth which is stable and reliable, this is ultimate truth. In a loose sense, this is not a definition. It's in a loose sense, which you can see that these two understandings are what you can apply to all the four schools. Now, four schools, each one of them, they have their own versions. They have their own definitions, very precise definitions of the two truths. Okay, now we will go to the, okay, first I will explain it, and then we will go to the text. The two truths according to Vaibhashika.